Everyone is calling Heated Rivalry a hockey romance, but hockey is almost besides the point. This show is really about intimacy and the radical act of men talking about their feelings without punishment. And that's why women are obsessed and why many men are watching, even if they won't admit it. I'm Antoinette, and today I'm joined by my friend Annie to unpack why Heated Rivalry feels so much bigger than a show and why so many people love it. So thanks for joining me, Annie.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you because I know you're a huge, huge fan. But before we dive in, I do want to warn everybody that we are going to chat about moments throughout the entire 6 episode run. So if you haven't seen the show, this is your official spoiler alert. Um,
Go see the show.
yes, please. But like and subscribe first, then come back and then and watch the show. And just to set the table here, for those who have been living under a rock. Okay, so this is a steamy gay hockey romance. It's the hottest TV show on the planet right now, and it's turned the show's two leads, Hudson Williams and Connor Story, into global stars. I mean, they're turning up everywhere. Late night television, award show circuits, Hollywood parties. Actually, I think even Hudson and Connor are the torchbearers at the Winter Games in Milan too. And Connor
That's right.
is going to be hosting SNL this weekend. So this show is not having a moment. It is the moment. And of course, Hudson and Connor play rival hockey stars, Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov, who are having an affair they're trying to keep secret. So let's dive in now. Annie, how did you discover Heated Rivalry?
So, as a CBC nerd, there were CBC articles about it over the holidays. And then I was starting to hear from friends like, oh, I just watched it. It was great. And I really started hearing about it from a group of gals that I get together with on a regular basis to watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. And we don't always share movie and TV tastes, but when the entire group unanimously said, oh my God, I've just finished watching it, you have to watch this show, I was like, okay, it's time. Here we go. Let's dive in.
You know what? That's so funny. You're also part of Bachelor Nation. I am too. It's funny because, yeah, it's
A blessing and a curse.
totally, totally. I say that, after working through my shame about it, it's just a guilty pleasure and it's a community thing. You just nailed it on the head, right? That it's rare that I will get texts about TV shows these days. We don't have like event television anymore, right? So
No,
when a show can galvanize people
media
like
is
this,
so
yeah, right.
split.
Our attention's everywhere, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why this is such a powerful moment. Like you just said, you actually were brought in through community and it became one of those things that you shared with other people. So this is also, I think, how I discovered it too. I kind of heard about the buzz. I knew about it and I was like, okay, at this point now, this train, I got to get on it because people are texting me, asking me about the show, what I think about the show. Our mutual friend was like, you guys have to be talking about this show. So I really love that you came into this show through community because it is building so much community. And it kind of brings me to
100%.
a question that I'm dying to ask you. Because you said you're watching it with a group of lady friends. And of course, this is, as I said at the top, like this is a gay hockey romance. But women are loving this right now. So I'm really curious, Annie, like, why do you think women, especially straight women, are driving so much of the hype behind this show?
So this is something I've been thinking about a lot, even before you asked me the question. It was just like, how has this taken hold of our collective consciousness in this way? I haven't felt this way about any piece of TV or movie since the Harry Potter movies started coming out when I was like 12 years old. So I feel a little bit insane. But to paraphrase bisexual icon Ilya Rozanov, I'm not completely straight, but I am married to a man, so I can speak somewhat from the straight woman experience. I think there are a couple of things playing here. first is that it's just an incredible show. Everyone loves great storytelling, and the storytelling is wonderful. The acting is wonderful. It looks great. The lighting, the sets, everything. It's just beautiful to watch. The characters are beautiful to watch.
Fair.
So from people who just like quality TV content, I think whatever gender you are, it hits. If you can allow yourself to get into the story. But I would say there are a few things that really nail it for me and for everyone that I've spoken to who identifies as a woman. It's people talk a lot about the yearning, and I totally see that. But I also see some great representation of flirting and great representation of sexual tension and nuance and subtext. And it's a story about a couple of guys, or in this case, a couple couples who do ultimately end up being better communicators with each other, but they're not great communicators from the very beginning. But what they are really good at conveying is that vulnerability, and that they're into each other. There are no games being played. They're not pretending to be less interested than they are. They're interested. And I just think there's something so refreshing about that. Like, you see so much game playing happening on TV, or you see people just get together because, there are a couple of hot characters and that's kind of what happens. But you really feel the emotion of it all. And I think women connect with that. And if I can say one more thing, have you heard of Esther Perel?
I love Esther Perel. Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible. For your listeners who don't know, she's the world's coolest specialist in like couples counseling and couples trying to understand each other better and be better with each other. And she shared on Instagram her take on Heated Rivalry. And she said that there was an incredible and beautiful amount of psychological safety, by which she meant that there are all of these moments when people are taking emotional risks and they are rewarded for it. So whether it is Shane saying yes to Ilya coming up to his room the first time, whether it's Scott Hunter waking up and he has just asked Kip to stay overnight, and he wakes up and Kip isn't in his bed anymore. It turns out Kip is just in his kitchen making him a smoothie. Or Rose discovers that Shane is gay and is just super lovely and chill about it. There are all of these examples of something kind of scary, like maybe just about to happen, and then it doesn't. And that's just so lovely to see.
Oh, okay. So you hit on so many things, so many threads I want to pull. I couldn't agree more with your assessment. Like, I think, well, firstly, Esther Perel. If anyone, thank you for dropping that name, because I wasn't aware of what she said about Heated Rivalry specifically, but she's an amazing psychotherapist. She is just the way she speaks about intimacy. I feel like, oh, she's just so accessible. So anybody who's interested in that, definitely go check her out. And I agree. I mean, I said at the top here that it's actually very fascinating to watch these two characters, see men really like having an emotional literacy that is not punished, that they're not playing games, that they're into each other. And yes, we definitely have to get into the I'm sorry, but the Scott and Kip of it all. I actually noted this actually as one of my favorite scenes. So for those who, again, spoiler alert, haven't seen it, there is this kind of standalone episode, I believe it's episode 3, right? Where it's just featuring this American hockey player, Scott Hunter, and he's now dating a barista named Kip. And you nailed it. That scene, and I wrote this down because I thought, oh my God, this is so special. Like where the morning after, I guess, right? Or they've been intimate. And, Scott is asking like Kip, like, to stay. Can you just stay? Like, don't rush off, don't leave. Like, I want you here after the game. I want you here after my practice. And he's like, this is what I want. Is that okay? I mean, I love a consensual king. Okay. I love a consensual king. There's something so beautiful, like you said, Annie, about the level of consent as well. I think in the conversations, and yes, the emotional vulnerability, it's like it just hits so different. And I believe you're right. I believe that it is because perhaps maybe we are so starved for that. And I don't know if it's modern dating, full stop, or if it's just the representation of modern dating that we're seeing on TV and movies. I mean, I think about, and a show that I'm going to definitely cover when it does drop in April, Euphoria. I mean, great show,
Mm.
but very different. It does feel very much like those characters, and especially the women, are very much centered around the male gaze. And so this show feels so real to me to watch characters, and particularly the two leads, fall in love over a period, slowly, by the way, over a period of about 9
Mhm.
years or so. It feels so real to me how they represented this. And at the same time, there's something so radical about seeing men in particular having these moments on screen where they're so raw and honest. It's such a beautiful thing to see. And I'm really curious as well too. Like there's so many moments we can get into. But what stood out for you in terms of and you've already talked about a little bit about Scott and Kip, right? And the smoothie scene. But what else stood out for you? Were there any other moments where you felt, okay, this is radical because of the emotional honesty that I'm seeing between two men?
So for Scott and Kip in particular, what I felt strongly about episode 3, that's that whole storyline of the sudden intensity of their relationship. It struck me as something that could only be a story of a relationship between two people of the same gender. Because when Scott says, I want you to stay, and he says it with all of that intensity. I want you to be here when I get back from my practice. I want you to be here when I get back from my game. He's basically asking this person that he barely knows to move in with him, share his life. And I think, this is just my hot take, I think that if it had been Scott was a man and Kip was a woman, you, the viewer, might watch that and suddenly fear for Kip's safety. Because it's like, oh, wow, that's a degree of intensity that feels like, are you crazy? Are you abusive? What's about to happen here? And it kind of follows the trope of like lesbians go on a 12-hour date together and it's like 2 dates in a U-Haul.
Yes.
But it's two men. I just think there's some safety somehow in knowing that these are two people of the same gender, same kind of physique, more or less. They are both going into this open-eyed, and you think that good things are going to come from this. Nothing to be afraid of on behalf of the character.
Oh, that's so fascinating. But I instantly recognize the truth in it because, yeah, if this had been a heterosexual couple, that scene would have been very different. You're right. It takes on a very different energy. I don't know what that says about, the dynamics between, modern women, but you're right. There is something that would have been instantly different about that scene. And also, going back to what you said about the psychological safety that is present throughout the whole show. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's something radical about seeing it between, I mean, again, I keep going back to this, show is about more than hockey. It's about more than obviously the two characters, the whole world that they've created here. I feel, and we'll get into the Canadian content part of this all, but the whole world, you're right, it's such a, it's almost the yearning part. Yes, the desire, the sex, all that's dynamite, but it's also yearning for, like, I don't know, that safety that I think is often not present when we see relationships represented, at least nowadays, on the screen. And yeah, that the slow sort of pace in which it builds, it's it grips you right away. they connect right away. For example, the leads right away, first episode, like, oh, okay, it's on, like right away, which feels, yes, it does feel like and I've only spoken to a few people from the Crave community who have told me like this show actually feels very real to me. How they hook up, how they got together, the flirting, as you say, the back and forth, the texting game,
So
and yes, even the scene towards the end, and we all know about that cottage scene when Shane's father comes and sees him kissing Ilya, and then it preempts him coming out. But even the grace, the dignity that was afforded to him by his parents, what a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch as well too. And I know that's really hitting for a lot of people too. That safety that's there in the conversations, the safety that's there. You mentioned this with the character Rose, right? So we see, I guess, Shane's beard for a period of time. Right? She's kind of aware, like, yeah, okay, right? So when she does finally give him that, that space to, hey, I can hold you. We can be friends. I can support you. That's beautiful to watch that, and it's beautiful to see. And yeah, it's pretty radical. And I think at the same time, it's so real to watch people go through the complexity of dating, figuring out who you are, irrespective of where you sit on the spectrum of sexuality. And I think a lot of people obviously are going to have conversations, and hopefully this show could actually save some lives, right? Where it can allow people to maybe have a conversation to really find some safety in the discourse. It could also open up doors for people who
yes.
perhaps would have been otherwise afraid to speak to who they love and how they love and who they are. And I think this just so much bigger than a show about, two hockey players who fall in love. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm so glad that you spoke
Well,
to
I
that.
just saw on Reddit yesterday, I'm deep into the Heated Rivalry
Yeah.
Reddit sub. There was somebody who posted that they're in their 20s. They are still in the closet to their family, but that they've heard their whole family absolutely raving about the show, and that it's therefore given them the confidence that they're going to be able to come out to them without repercussion.
Oh,
And like, that's wild that TV can do that for people. And
wow.
I just, okay, a couple things. I just like, one thing I love about the character of Rose is that your kind of underlying message here is that a man is not attracted to her. So she's like, oh, you must be gay.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, girl. Love the degree of confidence there. Absolutely winning it. But it's just like, as somebody who grew up with stories like Brokeback Mountain, which I also watched 3 times. I thought it was the most beautiful thing, but I cried my heart out, and it was just, it was part of that whole lineage of kill your gays stories where queer characters, if they were properly fleshed out, were going to be punished for it. And so that there's just so much queer joy in this, that I'm totally new to the entire romance genre. I had not ever dipped my toe in it before. I think I will try now. But the idea that you can have a really beautiful story and that it ends well, like,
Yeah.
put it in my veins, directly into my veins.
Totally. We all want to mainline it, right? It's refreshing. It's refreshing. And I do also want to pick up on something that's so obvious. Obviously, we've been tap dancing all around the hockey culture of it, but I think also too it bears some conversation around how it might shift culture there too, because as you said, there are a lot of people right now who may be closeted, who are now going to have an opportunity to have conversations and come out and live out loud for maybe the first time in their lives because of a TV show. And this is the reason why I think also when people ask, like, why do you talk about like a TV show? What's the big deal? Like, why do you talk about movies? Why do you talk about pop culture? Because we often talk about art imitating life. And I think life may be now imitating art. And I think this is huge. Another thing, though, that a lot of people have been talking about. And, let's, for those who are not joining us from the Canadian audience, we're both here in Toronto. And yeah, hockey's kind of a big deal in this country. So hockey has also, however, in the last few years, I think I would be remiss if I didn't say this, Annie, that like hockey's kind of gone through its own reckoning, right? Hockey culture has gone through its own reckoning. There have been a number of scandals around hockey in general in the culture. But it is, honestly, it is a big part of Canadian culture, and it has its own reputation. I mean, I grew up in the Oshawa area, so I grew up with friends who actually were part of the Ontario Hockey League, who played for the Generals. Hockey has always been a big part of the culture, and I've been adjacent to it, as I'm sure we all know people that play it recreationally and love the game. You know, during the playoffs, I'll go and watch the game with people as a social thing. But I will also say this: hockey, for better or worse, does have a kind of specific reputation for being somewhat macho, I think. And it's not exactly known for being a sport where people talk about their feelings. It's a somewhat stoic sport in that way. And I'm just really curious, what do you think this show means for the culture? How might it change the culture? And what does it mean to have hockey at the center of this romance?
It's hockey is such a funny phenomenon. I feel like as a like a how do I describe myself? Like a soft, artsy, lefty, feminist woman who grew up in a family that was not in any way athletic. Hockey was always just a huge turnoff for me because it just there was I saw no space for myself in that world, and I'm like a cisgendered white woman who like I don't there technically could be, but just the whole machismo of it, the sort of seeming constant underlying current of misogyny and homophobia has just always felt so icky. And I went to a university that was hockey obsessed. Every single residence had their own hockey team. The hockey games were like the big events on campus every year. And I really struggled to get into that fandom because I just I just found it unappealing. And there's been a lot of press about what does heated rivalry mean for the NHL? What does heated rivalry mean for the PWHL, the Women's Hockey League? How does it change the conversation around this? And PWHL, incidentally, I think I saw that there are like 30 some out queer players
Okay.
compared to the NHL, which has 0. And 0 retired queer players. Like no one is out from the NHL. And I'm so curious as to where this comes from. Like if you look at football or you look at basketball, you've seen players who are like hip enough to wear like a skirt dress sort of thing, paint their nails. Can't remember what this athlete's called who recently has had a painted nails story and then I don't follow sports. But there was an interview recently with a number of major NHL hockey players, captains and so on, talking about the game. And none of them had watched it, or at least admitted to it.
Yeah.
And the only thing that they could come out with was, I think we're in a place where we could support somebody who wanted to come out. And that was it. Like, what do you plan to do about it? What are you doing about it? That's nice for you to say, but you've got a lot of work to do to make people believe you on that front. The head of the NHL was like, oh yeah, I watched Heated Rivalry. It was great. It's like, cool. Now, what do you plan to do about it? You who have taken away pride jerseys, pride nights, pride hate, all of these little tiny incremental examples of how you could be showing your allyship. So The ball's in your court, guys. Or
Mm.
puck.
Yes, the puck's in your court too. Well played. Oh, well played me, well played. And touche, because you're so right. Look, as as a Black woman, I've always felt it was not a very inclusive sport. I just didn't see myself in it. Um, it's not inclusive in many ways. And I think, to your point, yes, I actually was, reading a lot about how the NHL has really leveraged its popularity online with their social media channels. We've seen a lot of people talk about how great this is, including, as you mentioned, the NHL commissioner, Gary Bateman, has said, I watched it all in one sitting in one night. That's great. And I recently heard, so Francois Arnold, who plays Scott Hunter, he is openly bisexual and has said, this is great that you have all embraced Heated Rivalry. But to your point, Annie, hey, what are you going to do about the actual game? Like, where are we going to actually see some action here? So I think this is really interesting. And what am I right in assuming that, do we feel that the show itself is going to change hockey culture, or do we feel like maybe a little less so? Because hockey culture is, as you mentioned, like, it deeply ingrained in kind of machismo, that it's hard to separate from the game. So do you feel, and I mean, I hate to put you on the spot here, but hey, we're here, we're talking about this. Let's have a really frank conversation about what it means, because it is a show that's underpinned with the game of hockey. Maybe for a very specific reason, they also chose hockey. And of course, Rachel Reed, who wrote the books that inspired this, is a Canadian from Halifax and knows the game. So I don't think it's a coincidence that she chose this game to pin a queer love story on. But yeah, I mean, do we think it's really going to have a change, or is it the spark, the conversation that might actually create change? I'm just curious.
I would think that, okay, first, so women are in a large part driving up ticket sales for the NHL to a degree that they have never seen.
Us.
And at least speaking as a Torontonian, where our team is the Toronto Maple Leafs, that is the most corporatized hockey team in the NHL. The tickets are so expensive because it's just companies that buy out the tickets to give to their clients or their big executives or whatever. So there's really, even from a going to watch a game perspective, it's never been this game that's for everyone to sit and enjoy when you're there in person. And if suddenly you have many more women in the crowd who are shouting things at players like kiss, 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 or talking about, there's this term that's been used called the man aquarium or something, to talk about like the sense of watching these players in a kind of a fishbowl inside the arena. And so I think maybe having more women and also more gay men going to these hockey games, maybe shifting the demographics a little bit of who's there, who's talking about it, who are having podcast conversations about the game of hockey. I think it could help, but I also wonder how many middle-aged moms, probably primarily, but also dads of young boys who play hockey have now watched this show and might now put in extra effort towards ensuring that they are gender and sexuality inclusive with their children, and that they are encouraging their children to be so to their fellow players.
And
that's my hope.
The needle. Yeah, that can move the needle, right? That can move the needle. But because you mentioned like other sports that have actually quite, I won't say maybe embraced, but certainly the athletes have been able to embrace their sexuality, whatever, wherever it lies on the spectrum. Yeah, definitely basketball. I can think about that. I can think going back to like Dennis Rodman back in like the 90s, you know. I think about even soccer and actually most professional sports. So hockey is kind of that last bastion in my mind among those sports that are televised and highly visible, where there is that sort of resistance to sort of give up um, the current sort of male dominant agriculture. And I think you're right. I would be inclined to agree that maybe if it does start in hockey families, it starts with those conversations. It starts with, hmm, you know, maybe a father or a mother, both, or an aunt or an uncle, whatever, an auntie, like talking to somebody and then say, hey, you know, um, what do you think about this show? Or just the the door being ajar. I think that's gonna move the needle a little bit. But absolutely you're right. I think wow, we have a lot of conversations that need to be had before we're going to see a significant shift in the culture. But this is a start, and I think this is one of the reasons why, yes, we are talking about it, and why others are talking about it. And of course, you know, we can always revisit that and see when season 2 comes out what that looks like, what the landscape looks like then. But what I do want to definitely dive into now is the moment that it's having and the Canadiana of it all. Because it's not lost on me that this show is like, actually, you know what? As I said before, I knew this show was huge when people were texting me about it. I thought, whoa, okay, this is big. I also knew it was big when I was watching the Golden Globes and I saw Hudson and Connor presenting to a room full of movie stars. I mean, Hollywood royalty, and getting Julia Roberts to blush, getting Alan White to clap and applaud, right? I thought, okay, these two have made it now, and this is a thing. And I would love to hear your thoughts, though, about what it is about this particular show and the Canadian storytelling of it all that's really resonating with people both here and abroad. What are your thoughts on that?
I saw online an American post to say it's insane that the Canadian government, that Canadian tax dollars are going to fund Heated Rivalry,
Yeah.
and my tax dollars are going to fund ICE killing people in Minnesota.
Oh,
And I just thought, like, that epitomizes it. That, I mean, I think as Canadians, we do tend to overblow the degree of inclusivity that exists in this country. I think we talk it up a lot more than we actually practice it. I'm just going to get that out of the way first.
okay.
That said, I also don't think this show could have really been made anywhere else. Like, when you think about the countries that celebrate Pride really, really hard, Canada is not only at the top of that list, but we also have the laws to back it up. Like, Brazil celebrates Pride really, really hard, but it's also a terrible place to be a queer person. So just as an example. So one of the really moving pieces that drives episode 6 is this notion that Ilya is like, I don't want to have a Russian passport anymore. And so I'm going to start planning for the future in a way that allows me to be some kind of North American. And he talks about the US, and then he talks about Canada. And there's this idea that isn't explicitly said in the show, but I think everybody who watches can understand that Canada is the safer place for him to eventually become an out gay man. And I find that really touching as a Canadian. And I think people have really, people who love this show are really protective of these characters, and they want the best for these characters. And they also recognize that Canada, even in a fictional sense, is a safer place for them to be. And so that's something that we can be proud of. And that even though the bar is so low, just the fact that our straight male politicians are like
Yes.
joking to each other about the show in general, like who's topping and bottoming who or whatever. It's like outrageous, but it's still done with a fondness and like there's no mean-spiritedness behind it. They're not digging. It's not got a homophobic undercurrent. You wouldn't get that in the US. I'm sorry, but that just wouldn't happen right now, or like frankly probably for a long time. And there are all kinds of European countries that are like technically queer friendly, but like only to a degree. So yeah, I think people are loving it. They're loving the Canadian fleece
Yes.
that's being made.
Yes.
Canadian is having a moment.
Yes. All of it. You're so right. I was going to bring up our Prime Minister. Mark Carney got his hands on that fleece. Oh my God, that fleece, right? It's going to be on everybody's wish list, that fleece. And you're so right. I'm actually listening to, so the creator of this show, Jacob Turney, he actually, as many Canadian creators are wont to do, they go to the US because they think that's where they're going to be able to get lift and of course, visibility. And oddly enough, Hollywood said, this is too edgy. So I think you're right. They actually said, no, this is too much for us in Hollywood. So he brought it back to Bell Media's Crave, and Crave said, we love it. We're all about it. So you're right, Annie. I think there's a lot of evidence to support that, yes, Canadians are more accepting, maybe a little bit more inclusive. And we're not perfect, as you mentioned before, yes, for sure. But there's a reason why, yes, in episode 6 at that cottage, the discussion around how can we be together between Shane and Ilya saying, well, maybe I come to Canada instead. Shane said, maybe you come and you play here. Maybe you go to Ottawa. Maybe you go. So dropping all these different Canadian cities. And I know you do work in tourism, right? You do have a very good handle on how this has actually impacted tourism. I was surprised when I was even reading about this, that so many cities in in Canada, Ottawa being one of them, Hamilton be another one, that has really embraced, heated rivalry, and like to the point where they're actually promoting a lot of the places that are in this show. And a lot of the locals, I've talked to a friend in Hamilton as well, is like, oh my God, this one coffee shop where the smoothie bar was, is getting much less. They actually have like a Shane Hollander smoothie. They've embraced it. So Canadians, we embrace this stuff. We think it's cool. Like, we're like, yes, we're so proud of being Canadian in this geopolitical moment as well. I think anything Canadian, we're going to get behind, and we're going to get behind hard. And so I think you're right. There's something, we're not as cool for school, I think, as maybe our neighbors sometimes. And I think that we have such a pride in showing people our country. It's like being the little brother to like the larger superpower next door. It's like, we're finally having our moment, and we're basking in that glow. And I think that's part of it too. I was looking at Pinterest as well too, and it's hilarious. So there's a heated rivalry mood board that was actually put out by, I actually not sure if this was Ottawa Tourism as well, but definitely in partnership with Muskoka Township. They actually have a come to the cottage campaign right now. They're leveraging that in big ways. And I really think you're right. It does speak to the fact that right now in this moment, especially what's going on geopolitically right now, we are so proud to get behind anything that's Canadian. And you're right, the sensibility that we have as Canadians, even if it's in aspiration only, we do believe in that inclusivity, that could only really be reflected in this show if it was done here in Canada, featuring a Canadian landscape. I do think you're right. And I appreciate the fact that so many people have gotten behind this show, including, as you said, like a lot of politicians, our prime minister as well. I actually wrote read, excuse me, something that Carney was saying when he was talking to the press about the show and its global dominance and why he thinks it's so great. And he just said, because it is so Canadian. And, it's representative of a nation that celebrates what makes us different. And that's what's in the secret sauce. It's that Canadian portion of the programming. And I think that's so, 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 so true right now. Like, people are so rabid for it. So I'm
And I
totally with
think
you.
Canada's even like a fantasy land for all kinds of people living under authoritarian or fascist or semi-fascist governments right now. Like, it's no coincidence that when Trump got reelected, all kinds of Americans were suddenly Googling, how do I get Canadian citizenship?
Yeah.
And so it adds, there's a chunk of the audience that's Canadian and just loves it. But I think for people living in places like the US or even some European countries that are heading in a much more authoritarian direction, where people's rights are being reduced and inclusivity is taking on a kind of negative connotation somehow. This adds to the romance genre fantasy that this is this place that is where if you come out to your parents, they'll just be really cool about it and be sad that they didn't create the right circumstances for you to come out to them years ago. So yeah, it all feeds into that the beauty of this story, the fact that it is joyful, and it's just catnip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Canadians, we're nice, right? We're known for being nice people. I think it sort of stamps that cultural diplomacy as well. And you're so right. It's a beautiful thing to see. Now, I mean, there's obviously so many things we could talk about. But as we do wind down, and I, if it's not obvious already, we are encouraging you to go watch this show if you haven't already. Like,
Go watch the show.
Come on aboard. We would love to have you. And I want to also just kind of talk a bit, about how this show has, if at all, and I'm inclined to believe it probably has for you, how it shifted how you think about intimacy and how you reimagine relationships. Like, what are your thoughts on that as well, too?
Okay, when watching this, I was like, is this how all romance can make you feel on a regular basis? Have I been depriving myself of this
Romance.
all this time? And I've heard this from so many people that they're like, my husband's going to be very embarrassed for me to say this, but like, it's making me feel spicier, I'll tell you that. And it's okay. I saw a very interesting post about this where someone was like, yes, there are things that you should take away from these relationships. Let's particularly talk about Shane and Ilya for a second. That yes, they show a lot of emotional vulnerability to each other in various points of the series. And the consent is obviously like so incredible. It proves how sexy consent is. But I'm speaking probably mostly to the ladies, but this is to anyone. If you have been fucking the same person for many years and you would like it to progress further, and there's no reason for your relationship to be secret or to be on the down low or for it to be a kind of a situationship, and that person is being emotionally unavailable to you, they're not going to turn into Ilya Rozanov for you, baby. They're just not. It's not going to happen. Please don't go down that road. Just cut yourself loose.
Yeah.
Do it right now. But in terms of just, I think the degree of enthusiasm that they show for each other when they're together and the playful respect that they show for each other, chef's kiss. Love it. Bring that to all of your relationships. Like, learn from that, incorporate it into your own routine. Absolutely.
Yes, I love it too. I love seeing emotional available people, and even if they aren't, the progression, right? The respect, the way, oh my
Yes,
gosh, the way that's
the
presented.
character growth.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's like one of those things where I think this is an aspirational show. It's so sad in a way to see that and think that it's aspirational, but I think it's aspirational and hopefully, therefore, can, as you said, it can actually make people think about the kind of relationships, platonic or otherwise, that they want to call into their lives. And like, what a beautiful, beautiful thing to be talking about, as you said, this type of a show, this type of, you know, Canadian content that's been exported. Like, this is a wonderful thing. I think I'm proud, in my red and white as I am today, to be actually talking about a Canadian show that is spreading, as you said so many times today, joy, right? And love. And I think we need so much more of that in the world today, that, you know, you can't go wrong with that. And so I'm really, really happy that we were able to talk about this today. And before we do close, I want to also invite you to share, what are your hopes? Because we do know there's going to be a second season. So what would
That's
you
right.
like to see
Confirmed.
happen for our characters going into the second season?
So I've read book 1. I have not, or sorry, I guess it's technically book 2 in the season. I read the Heated Rivalry book.
Okay.
And I know there is the follow-up to it called The Long Game. I have not read that because I didn't want to give myself spoilers, but I'm online enough to have like a little bit of a sense of what happens. And this is maybe a weird take, but I'm actually kind of nervous for it because there are a lot of shows, movies where the real pleasure of watching the story play out is the will they or won't they-ness of it all. The seeing the point, the story that it takes for them to actually successfully get together at the end. And I find that so satisfying, but particularly in this one, the rivals to lovers story. What sometimes happens in a show is kind of like this one. You've got season 1, you get to that stage at the very end, it's beautiful. And then season 2, in order to create drama, there has to be some like heartbreaking relationship, some heartbreaking relationship issues. And I typically don't find that quite as, it's like, it's kind of sad as opposed to like, ooh, okay, there's some drama, but what's going to happen next? Now, I have been assured by the romance community that this is a romance, and so all goes well at the end, and in fact, in many points throughout. So maybe I should just trust the process and trust that Rachel Reed and Jacob Tierney are going to create something that is so moving and so beautiful. But also, something that I really appreciated about this show is that you don't actually see any of the homophobia.
Oh, yeah.
It is all alluded to between the characters, between Shane and Ilya, and between Scott and Kip. But there isn't actually ever anyone calling out homophobic slurs to each other. And
Oh, wow.
I want to pause myself because I don't want to give spoilers to people, but I understand that maybe there will be more of that in season 2.
That's interesting.
That makes me a bit nervous.
Okay, because yeah, you have, you know, noted a second season kind of recurring problem with a lot of shows. Yes, you're right. They have to kind of create that dramatic tension. And so you have two people right now that are all up in their love nest right now. It's like, is that gonna create enough tension for season 2? Perhaps not. So you're right. At a certain point, a shoe's gonna have to drop, I guess. And you're so right about I didn't actually register that, but the absence of actual homophobic slurs or like any kind of, there was not really, there really wasn't, we didn't really have to see that or watch that. And again, I'm sure that was a choice that was made, right? Perhaps there's very practical reasons why that would not be something that you'd want to celebrate in this show. But the implication of it was always there, especially with Ilya being Russian. There was the implication of that. So that's
Yes, actually, sorry. That's the one exception to what I just said. His brother does use
he does call him
insulting
an
language.
epitaph that we're all familiar with, if we've, but you're right though. But the absence of it didn't need to be hammered out. It was implied, and I think for many of us watching it, we understood the stakes. We understood why they can't just be together. And again, it speaks to me anyways, to go back to the culture around hockey, around certainly, yes, we're all very aware of the differences in terms of the acceptance or lack thereof of the 2SLBT community here versus, let's say, Russia. So it didn't have to be said so explicitly. And I think that's really interesting that you called that out, because you're right. It does make a big statement, but it's not banging you over the head with it. It's really about the story between these two people, the love story between them. And as you said before, so astutely, like just the emotional rawness and realness, and also in a way almost seems like oddly and scarily the sci-fi nature of watching like these two people, these two men actually who have this, yes, let's talk about our feelings, let's not play games, like that seems like straight up sci-fi. Like, and it's
totally Fantasyland.
Like, oh my God, like, yes, let's mainline this, please. I really love that about this show. And yes, I think that's why so many people have really taken to it as well. So for season 2, we will be definitely watching it. I for sure definitely know we'll have a conversation about that when that drops. And I too, like you, hope that, we can see a balance between, yes, creating that dramatic tension. But also, I agree with you. I think there's probably going to be a lot more fallout looking at Scott being an openly gay player now. Do we bring Scott back? Is he going to have a little bit more scene time? And what does that mean now? What are we going to see in the locker room? What are we going to see in the broader, conversation around the game itself and what that means for Scott being open? So yeah, it could be a bumpier ride in second season. But man, I know I'm going to be here for it, whatever.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be like the kid lining up at Indigo at midnight on the Harry Potter book release launch night. Like wherever it's screening, I will be there.
Totally. And I want to thank you, Annie, so much for coming here today.
Thank you.
Just sharing with us your thoughts on the show and your enthusiasm for the show, because it's so infectious. And like, I do really love talking about, good TV, good film, anything in the culture. And this is like not having, as I said, a moment. It is the moment right now. And
this is the zeitgeist.
It is. So if anyone hasn't seen it, please know that this is not a hockey show. It's a show, as we've said many times, about risk, about emotional risk, and the beautiful thing that happens when I think somebody is there to actually catch you when you fall. And so I want to thank you for joining me, Annie. I want to thank everyone as well who's been watching or listening. Please let us know what you thought about the show, and get at us in the comments. And I will say until next time, alchemists, stay curious.
Thank you so much, Antoinette. Bye for now.
Bye.